So, during our interview, during our time together, I guess the natural question for me is, and maybe it's changed, but who is Mike Pucillo?
Mike Pucillo is the same guy he's always been. I college athlete, ex-college athlete. I no longer am in college. College national champ in wrestling, and I just happen to be gay. I always knew who Mike Pucillo was, and people always thought they knew who Mike Pucillo was. And I'm the same person. I haven't changed. I'm the same guy that's going to crack a joke. I'm the same guy that's going to, mess around with somebody. I haven't changed in that aspect. Only thing that's changed is that people know that I'm gay. And again, my goal here is to get it to a point where people don't have to do this. Because to me, it's no different than something black or white. It's the way they were born. And what I struggle with now is, and this is something that comes within me, is, like I said, I always envisioned how a conversation would go with somebody that I was afraid to tell. My wrestling coach, my best friend, my dad, my mom. Those were not easy for me to do at any point. It's still not easy for me to do and go up to someone and tell somebody. It's difficult for me to say the words because I've been trying not to say them for so long.
So here to start the second period. And it was Varner on top and an escape for Pucillo.
Work in the center.
Tom is one of the people that I have always looked to when I struggled in anything, wrestling, life, But this was one thing that I thought, there's no way I could go to him about. Tom is a great man, great coach, great person, but was always one of the people that I was, other than my dad, the most scared for him to find out. Again, and this is not a bash on Tom or anybody like that, but you hear the things that people say, and though they may be joking, they may mean a tenth of it, or they may believe it one way or the other, it still hurts and you think about it. I remember comments that people made back when I was in third grade that I'll never forget. And again, that's ultimately what this comes down to, is making people one aware of the things that they're saying. To tell the kids that are a junior in high school or senior in high school or freshman in college or a senior in college or, in eighth grade or whenever, they feel comfortable with it, that, you're not the only one. For a while, you think you are, and it's a lonely place. It really is. For the longest time, I was like, I have to be the only gay wrestler ever. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's crazy. I have to be the only gay high school wrestler ever. I have to be the only gay high school state champ ever. I have to be the only gay high school national champ ever. I have to be the only gay college wrestler ever. And knowing what I know now, I mean, it's so ridiculous.
So let's talk about family. I mean, and we'll get around to guys that are family to you, like Reece Humphrey and others that have been teammates and best buddies and friends. But first, let's talk about talking to your parents. How did that happen?
Well, so I told my mom first, and I'll tell you what, I tried to have the conversation with her, and I literally could not say the words. So actually, with my mom, what I did was I read this book. It was Billy Bean's book, about his story, and a lot of things, hit home with that. So what I did was I went up for my nephew's birthday party, and I put the book in her car and told her about it. And I said, hey, I want you to read this book. It's in your car, and then you can text me or call me after that. you know, and so that was my way of telling her. And, you know, she read the book and, she called me and we talked about everything. That one wasn't as bad as the one I thought I'd have with my dad. I thought my dad was going to lose it and, tell me he never want to talk to me again. And I think that is probably the toughest conversation to have as a gay athlete or, just being gay in general, have that conversation with your father. That wasn't easy. And again, same thing. I tried and tried and tried to have the conversation, and I just couldn't do it. I ended up just sending him a text message. And part of the reason I did that was I wanted him to read the entire thing before he responded to just the fact that, hey, I'm gay. I wanted him to read everything that I had to say first before he could respond. And his response was just, I love ... you. And that was it.
Reece Humphrey, I think, was the first guy, at least really close friend that you told.
Yeah.
What was Reece's response?
He basically just said, same thing. I actually sent him a message, and at the end of it, I just said, hey, I'm going for a run. If you call me, I don't answer. That's why. And his response was awesome. I couldn't have asked for, a better person.
A better friend.
Yeah. And it was just, everything he said was just, perfect. In the fact that, again, you hear things that, even things that Reece said when I was in college, oh, there's no way I can tell this guy. He's going to never talk to me again. And again, you realize that, and it's bad to say, you realize that just because someone says something like that doesn't mean that's what they really think or what they really mean. They're just trying to get a laugh out of it. But it takes a while to realize that. When I told Reece the first time, he was the first person, of my really good friends that, knew me on a day-to-day basis that I told. And just the fact that I told him, it made it easier for me to tell my mom. It made it easier for me to tell my dad. It made it easier for me to tell my other friends. And absolutely, and every person you tell that finds out, and you find out that they're supportive of you, and you find out that they still love you, you find out, all this stuff, it absolutely gets easier to be myself.
We've come a long way over the last 30, 40, 50 years even.
Well, I'm not that old, though.
No, you're certainly not that old. I might be. But the point is, the world is a changing place. And I, for one, am grateful for that, because it seems to me that, the strong leaders out there, of which you are one today for doing this interview with me, I'm floundering around just like everybody, and knowing how to ask the right question. What words are the right words to use? What are the ones that what are the questions that need to be posed differently? If you're talking to a group of kids out there and you've been brought in to speak on this topic, it's a pretty big obligation that you're making to these kids and to their families and whatnot. Do you look forward to that opportunity to be able to, tell kids that, hey, you may feel differently, and here's why? Yeah,
I've always been somebody that would have no problem doing something like that. Whether it was a wrestling camp and they wanted me to speak in front of them, or go to a high school and talk about, leadership as far as, the captains of the teams and stuff like that. I've always done that. I had no problem doing it. This would be tougher for me to do because, like I said, this part of it is very new to me, and it's still, pretty emotional. On a daily basis, I think about things. So, absolutely, down the road, I would love to be able to go and speak, because I feel like and I'm sure everybody in my situation feels the same way, that I know things that happened that some of my friends that I told, situations that we were in, they have no clue about it. They have no recollection of the things that they said. Now me, I remember where we were at. I remember what was said. I remember why it was said. I remember who we were talking to. Those are the type of situations that I would like to go out and explain, because frankly, like we talked about earlier, between, being born black or being born white, this one, you're born gay or you're not born gay, you're born straight. But you can't see that, so I can have a conversation with my best friend and he could just go on and on and on, that there's no way he would have that same conversation with me if he knew.
I just want to be sure I'm clear on this. You don't believe that gay is a choice, being gay, or sexual orientation is a choice. You believe you're born.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know why anyone would choose this life. I'm sure there are some people out there that, have said that they chose it. I think maybe a situation came up in their life where that's when they realized it. I don't think anyone would knowingly choose this life. Now, that being said, this is my life and I wouldn't change anything about it. But, why would somebody choose to be ridiculed their entire life?
Is wrestling, in your opinion, of all the sports, would you say it's the hardest sport to be gay in?
Well, I'm obviously a little bit biased to that because, high school and wrestling, that was the only sport I did. But I mean, just looking at it, you'd have to think absolutely. To people on the outside that don't know wrestling, they would say, oh, it's a gay sport anyways. They're two dudes rolling around on a mat. To people inside the sport, they take great offense to that. So much offense to it that on the inner circle, it is very homophobic. And it's because they've had their guard up, because people have always said, you kidding me? You're two dudes rolling around in a leotard, all sweaty on the mat. It's pretty gay, But, that being said, it's the toughest sport known to man. It's the hardest thing to do mentally, physically. So to answer the question, yeah, I do think it's probably the toughest sport to be gay in. One of the biggest things that I like to accomplish here is, again, just the way that we speak to each other. I hear stories all the time of, even kids in grade school and high school or junior high, or that have thought about or have harmed themselves. And my first thought when anything like that happens is, why would they do something like that? Was somebody or something said to them that just came up, or is there something that couldn't have been said that ultimately led them to that situation? And knowing the things I know now, I hope that we can get to a point where, one, those things aren't said, and it's a safer place for young people to live.
Mike Pucillo, I got to tell you, I've been a fan of yours for many years. The way you've wrestled, the way you competed, the intensity, the determination, and this is yet another page, another chapter in the book of your life. And I'm, for one, grateful for the opportunity to read your book so far. I think it's fascinating, and I congratulate you on the decision you made. It's got to be very difficult, but an awful brave young man sits next to me today, and I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing too.